Well now, hello, my dear. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. It's time to leave the noise of the day behind. Settle into your bed, pull the blanket up, and rest your head. Grandpa is right here with you, with a gentle tale to guide you into the quiet of the night. You don't need to do anything at all. Just listen, softly, slowly, and let your eyes grow heavy. Tonight's story is just for you. So let's take a deep breath and let the dreaming begin. The first stitch could be made, but not from silver thread. No, this would take something stronger. Nilo stood, reached into his bag, and pulled out something he'd nearly forgotten. It was tiny, barely a whisper, a memory of laughter, his own from long ago, when he danced in the rain as a child, believing the moon smiled just for him. He held it in his paw, and it glowed, warm, golden. He placed it inside the hole, and the moon sighed, a long, soft breath, like a song sung without sound. The crack shrank just a little, and in that moment, hundreds of small ladders appeared all around the sky, made of light and wind and old dreams. They reached from every corner of the world, stretching up toward the moon. And from them, others began to climb, not creatures, not animals, but memories, tiny ones, of people looking up again, of children pointing, of poems whispered to the night, of old lullabies sung to sleeping babies. They were all coming back to help mend the moon. Not just Nilo's job anymore, a world remembering one gentle piece at a time. Nilo stood on the moon's edge, his paws dusty with stardust, his heart full of wonder. The memory he'd placed, the one of his childhood laughter, had sealed the first bit of the crack, and the moon had responded with a breath, a shimmer, and a sky full of glowing ladders. Now, tiny memories from all over the world climbed toward the moon. Some were bright as sunlight, some were dim, flickering like old candles. But all of them were true. There was a memory of a woman in a quiet village who used to sing to the moon every night. There was a boy who once told the moon his secrets through an open window. There was a tired father who rocked his baby and whispered, "Look, that light up there, she's watching over you." Every memory that reached the moon became a patch, not to hide the crack, but to honor it. You see, Nilo wasn't fixing the moon to erase her sadness. No. He was helping her remember that even the cracked parts were love. But the crack ran deep. It reached far inside, where the moon kept her oldest memories, ones she had never shared. Even the stardust didn't go there. Nilo stood at the edge and peered into that deep silence. He knew what he had to do. He pulled out the last item in his bag, a spool of singing thread. This wasn't ordinary thread. It had been spun from the hums of grandmothers, the lullabies of distant lands, and the quiet tunes people hum when they don't even know they're singing. It didn't just glow, it sang, not with words, but with warmth. He threaded his comet bone needle and stepped into the crack. Inside was darkness, not frightening, just still. It was the part of the moon that listened, the place where she held every word ever spoken to her. It was vast, endless, and beautifully lonely. Nilo began to sew, one stitch at a time. Each time the needle pierced the dark, the singing thread lit up like a star. The thread hummed softly, and the space around it warmed. Stitch by stitch, memory by memory, a lullaby from a sailor, a song from a girl whose mother had passed, a whisper from a lonely child who only had the moon to talk to. Nilo wove them all in, and as he stitched, he sang too, not loudly, just enough. a melody about light coming back, about cracks not being failures, but invitations to be filled with love. And slowly, the inside of the moon began to glow. She wasn't just whole, she was wiser. She wasn't just fixed, she was woven with love. When Nilo stepped out of the crack, the moon turned toward him, not with a face, not with words, but with something greater. She shone, and the light that came from her was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Not silver, not gold, but a warm, soft glow, like the kind you feel when someone holds your hand and says, "I see you, I remember you, I love even the parts you hide." The ladders of light began to gently fade. The memories had done their job. The moon was whole. Nilo sat down and watched her rise a little higher in the sky, proud and gentle. She wasn't perfect. She was honest. She was still the moon. But now she sang back. And the whole world, whether they knew it or not, heard that song in their sleep. After the final stitch was sewn and the moon's quiet hum began to echo through the stars, Nilo didn't leave right away. He could have. The path of moonbeams was still there waiting to take him home. But something inside him whispered, "Not yet." The moon, in all her glowing grace, seemed to agree. For as he walked along her curved silver hills, a gentle breeze pushed him toward a place he hadn't noticed before, a deep, round crater near her southern edge. It wasn't dark like other craters. This one shimmered, not with light, but with something softer, a kind of feeling. Curious, Nilo padded to the center and sat down. The ground here was smooth, polished by time and silence. He placed his little bag beside him and closed his eyes. And there, the moon gave him a memory, not just any memory, her own. He didn't see it, not like a picture. He felt it, like the warmth of sunlight on your fur or the quiet of a mother's arms. She showed him the first night she ever rose into the sky, long, long ago, before there were cities, before even the first stories. She had risen round and full to look down at a world that didn't yet know how to look back. She had waited for someone to notice her. And finally, one evening, a child in a field of tall grass had looked up and smiled. That smile was the first gift the moon had ever received. She kept it tucked deep within her, buried beneath this crater, holding it safe all these years. And now she gave it to Nilo. He opened his eyes and gasped gently, not out of fear, but out of wonder. In his lap now rested a tiny object, a star-shaped stone no larger than a button. It pulsed with warmth. Not heat, not magic, but something ancient, something kind. As he touched it, he heard a voice, not from the sky, not from the moon, but from within. "This is the first wonder," the voice whispered. "It belongs to those who still believe in small things." Nilo wrapped the stone carefully in a corner of his cloud coat and tucked it away. He didn't know what it would do, or why it had been given, only that it mattered. And somehow he knew he wouldn't carry it for himself forever. It was a gift for another, someone someday, who would need to remember what it felt like to look up and smile for no reason at all. That night, Nilo built a tiny camp near the crater, not because he had to, but because the moon felt less like a place and more like a friend now. He boiled starlight tea, hung a wind chime made from dream silver, and watched Earth spin below, blue and green and full of sleeping souls. "They don't know the moon is mended," he said softly to the wind, "but I think maybe they'll feel it." The wind ruffled his fur in reply, a silent yes. Nilo had fallen asleep beside his starlight fire, curled up in his cloud coat, the soft hum of the mended moon wrapping him like a lullaby. But in the deepest hour of the night, when even the wind was asleep, something stirred in the sky above. It began with a flicker, then a shimmer, then a whisper. The stars were coming down, not falling, no. Stars don't fall like stones. They float like lanterns loosed from heaven, each carrying a bit of old, forgotten magic. One by one, they gathered at the edge of the moon, dozens at first, then hundreds, then more than Nilo could count. Each one twinkled softly, their light pulsing not in rhythm, but in emotion. And Nilo, waking gently, rubbed his eyes and whispered, "You came." The stars didn't speak with mouths, but he understood them. They had felt the moon's mending, felt the threads he'd sewn, the memories placed gently into her wounded silence. And they had come to say thank you, but also to ask for help. You see, the stars held secrets. Each one contained a forgotten wish. Some made in joy, like a child wishing for a best friend. Some made in sorrow, like a mother praying for her child to return safely. And some for wishes so old, even the stars had forgotten who made them. The problem was, these wishes had no place to go anymore. People had stopped believing their wishes could reach the stars. They still looked up, yes, but with doubt. And doubt is a heavy thing for stars to carry. "We don't shine as we used to," one star whispered through its flickering light. "Our wishes are trapped. We cannot let them go." Nilo listened quietly, his little paws pressed to his heart. Then he stood. He took out the tiny starstone the moon had given him, the one shaped like the first smile, and as he held it up, the stars leaned in. The stone pulsed softly, once, twice, and then it sang, not loud, not sharp. It sang the way a mother hums as she rocks a baby, the kind of song you don't remember with your mind, but with your bones. The stars trembled, and slowly, gently, they opened, not like flowers, more like lanterns, and from each one drifted a wish. Some were words, some were images, some were just feelings, like hope, like love, like the warmth of a fire when you come in from the cold. Nilo stood there, surrounded by them, and he smiled. "I can't carry all of these," he whispered, "but maybe I can remind the world how to wish again." The stars pulsed in agreement. They weren't asking to be fixed. They just needed someone to care, someone to carry a little light back down. Nilo wrapped the starstone in a new cloth, this one made from a sky feather, and placed it carefully into his bag. The moon, hearing everything, hummed once more, a note of encouragement, a lullaby of purpose, and Nilo knew what he had to do. It was time to go home, not to rest, but to remind the world that the sky was still listening, that their wishes were still floating up, waiting to be believed in again. The stars had given him their trust. The moon had gifted him her oldest smile. And now Nilo stood once more at the edge of the moon, looking down at the blue-green earth spinning slow and soft beneath him. He took a deep breath of the cold sky. It smelled like sleep and secrets, and the first snow before winter. The path of moonbeams appeared once more, delicate and glowing like threads of silk woven just for him. "Time to go back," he whispered, not because his work was finished, but because the rest of the work could only be done down there. He stepped onto the path, and with each step, memories whispered beside him. some from long ago, some not yet made. The stars watched him go, the moon, proud and quiet, tilted just enough to shine her light over his journey. And so he descended. The earth greeted him gently. It didn't shout or cheer. It breathed. Trees swayed in welcome. Crickets sang. The wind curled around his fur like a hug that said, "I missed you." He landed not far from where he had first started, on a quiet hill that overlooked a sleepy village. And there was the old house, the same one with the crooked roof and the chimney that puffed lazy clouds like a sleepy dragon. Nilo smiled. Home. But he didn't rest. Not yet. Because something strange had happened. As he walked down the hill, lanterns flickered on by themselves, windows opened, curtains parted. People, one by one, looked up, not at him, at the sky, at the moon, at the stars. They felt something had changed, not with their eyes, but with their hearts. Children pointed again. Old men paused mid-step. Mothers hushed their babies not with shushing, but with songs. And in the silence that followed, something even more remarkable happened. Wishes rose, tiny, glowing bits of hope, like seeds of light, drifting up from hearts that dared to believe again. They floated, slow and shimmering, into the night sky. Nilo watched them rise, one by one, each one gently carried by the breeze like the earth was exhaling hope. He sat beneath the big tree behind his old house, pulled out the star stone. It pulsed softly, a quiet rhythm, and then a voice, not loud, not from the stars or the moon this time, from within him. "You did well." Nilo closed his eyes. The voice wasn't speaking to him. It was him, his truest self, the part of him that remembered being a child, looking at the moon with wonder, the part that never stopped believing even when everything else said to stop. That voice had never left. He had only needed silence long enough to hear it again. Nilo stayed in his village after returning from the moon. Days were quiet, nights were soft. He planted small seeds of wonder in every corner, like whispering to trees, drawing stars on sleepy windows, and humming lullabies only the wind could hear. But one evening, something changed. It was the stillness that caught his attention, not peaceful, but hollow, like a hush that had forgotten why it was quiet. Nilo followed it down the cobbled path, past the baker's cottage, through the grove of dreaming trees, until he reached the end of the village. There, beneath a broken lamp-post, sat a boy with empty eyes, no glow in his cheeks, no flicker of dreams behind his stare. He didn't look up at the moon, didn't glance at the stars. He simply sat, still, unmoving, like someone who had folded himself so small he was nearly gone. Nilo approached quietly. He didn't speak right away. He simply sat beside the boy, curling his tail around them both like a warm blanket. Minutes passed. Then finally, the boy whispered, "I used to make wishes." His voice was dry, like leaves left too long in the wind. But none came true. He pointed up to the stars with a tired finger, so I stopped. "What's the point?" Nilo didn't rush, didn't try to cheer him up. He simply nodded. "Some wishes take longer," he said softly. "Some get stuck on the way. They forget how to shine." The boy didn't answer, but Nilo reached into his bag and pulled out a small jar. Inside, one tiny flicker, a trapped wish, dim, curled in on itself, forgotten. He placed the jar in the boy's hands. "This one belonged to someone who gave up," Nilo whispered. "But maybe, if someone else believes in it, it can remember how to glow again." The boy looked at the jar. At first, nothing changed. But then, he brought it close to his chest, and held it there like it mattered. The wish inside stirred, faintly, a tremble, then a soft light, barely there, but enough. Tears welled in the boy's eyes, not from sadness but relief, like something heavy had finally been set down. "I think I remember this wish," he said. "It was mine." Nilo smiled. The stars above seemed to lean closer, and for the first time in many nights, the boy looked up. Really looked. "Do you think they're listening again?" he asked. Nilo touched the star stone in his coat pocket. It pulsed gently. "I know they are," he said. From that night on, the boy returned every evening. He didn't make new wishes, not right away, but he remembered the old ones. And memory, you see, is the first spark of magic. It tells the stars, "I haven't given up completely," and that is enough. After helping the boy remember his forgotten wish, Nilo spent his days quietly. But one evening, as twilight painted the sky in sleepy colors, a strange sound echoed across the village. Tick-tock, tick-tock. It was faint, almost too soft to notice, but Nilo felt it in his bones. The sound came from the old clock tower, a crooked building at the far edge of the village, long abandoned. No one went near it anymore. Its bells hadn't rung in years, and most believed it was just a relic, forgotten by time. But Nilo knew better. Sometimes the forgotten things are simply waiting. He made his way to the tower that night. The rain followed softly behind him, as if curious. When he reached the door, he placed his paw against the old wood and whispered, "I hear you." And the door opened on its own. Inside, the air was thick with dust, memory. The great clock gears sat still, like ancient giants asleep in a dream. Cobwebs shimmered in the moonlight. Then a voice, software, almost wind-like. "Time is breaking," it said. Nilo blinked. "Breaking?" "Yes, time needs tending, just like the moon did." He climbed the winding staircase, step after creaking step, until he reached the top room. And there, floating above the center of the floor, was something impossible. A thread, silver and shimmering, stretched tight and trembling like a harp string. And it was fraying. Each loose thread sparked gently, like moments unraveling. "What is this?" Nilo asked. The whisper answered, "It is the thread of now. Every moment in the world is stitched to it. When people forget to be present, when they rush, worry, or lose wonder, the thread weakens." Nilo's eyes softened. "No one notices the now anymore," he said. "They're always waiting for tomorrow or reliving yesterday." The whisper sighed. "And so the clock slows, and time forgets how to move gently." Nilo knew what he had to do. He reached into his bag and pulled out something he'd almost forgotten. A needle made of moonlight, gifted to him the night he first mended the moon. He threaded it carefully with a single hair from his cloud coat. Then he stepped forward and began to stitch. Not fast, not to finish, but with care. He stitched with stories, with laughter he'd heard echo from windows, with the quiet way people pause before they cry, with the sparkle in a child's eye when they see fireflies for the first time. Each stitch was a moment, alive, warm, and now. And as he worked, the thread stopped fraying. The tower breathed, the gears turned, and far below in the village, people felt something shift. That night, for the first time in many years, the clock tower bell rang. Not loud, not proud, but gentle, like a chime inside the soul. Children stopped playing to listen, elders closed their books and smiled, and a girl standing barefoot in her backyard whispered, "I think I feel time again." Not racing, not running out, just being. Nilo finished the final stitch. He stepped back and bowed gently to the thread, as if thanking it. The whisper in the tower spoke once more. "Thank you, little one. You've reminded the world how to live in this very moment." Nilo smiled, soft and slow. "It's all we ever really have. Now sleep, my precious one. Let the clock tick softly tonight. Not to rush you, not to chase you, just to keep you warm in this one perfect moment. You're here, you're safe, and Grandpa will be waiting again for you."